Welcome to Magic Beyond the Books. Today we are talking about the dueling club scene from book 2. We're calling this episode Hogwarts Fight Club. I'm Renee, and Jessie is back guest hosting the podcast with me. Jessie, do you want to introduce yourself and share your Patronus?
Yes. I'm Jessie, and my Patronus is a falcon. Warning, there are Harry Potter spoilers in this episode.
Okay, a falcon. That seems like a good Patronus.
Yes. So I took the Pottermore Patronus quiz when I was in high school, and I got the result a falcon. I took it 2 days ago in preparation for this recording again, and I don't know if my personality has changed or the test has changed, but now my Patronus is officially a Chow Chow, which is a fluffy red dog.
Did it say why?
No, but the test format is really cool on harrypotter.com. They designed it really well. It gave a little bit of an explanation of a Chow Chow, but I didn't really feel like that vibed with me, so we're just going to stick with Falcon.
Okay, yeah, I like how you confidently said in the beginning Falcon, and then you admit that that's not actually your Patronus.
I know what my Patronus is in my heart.
Yeah, well, I took the test and I got an Aussie cat, which is a domestic cat, and I don't feel like that fits me.
If you were to pick something for yourself, what would you say?
We had an episode where we talked about animagi, and we found that a lot of times people's animagus form is the same as their Patronus. And for that, I suggested either like a dog or a goose for myself. So I think maybe one of those. So maybe I'm a Chow Chow.
Maybe you're a Chow Chow.
Okay, so should we get into a little overview of the scene? So this scene is from Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which is the second book in the series. This is chapter 11, The Dueling Club. I found that dueling, depending on what version you have, can be spelled with one L or two L's. I think two L's is the British version and one is American. But we're not going to talk about the whole chapter. We're more talking specifically about the dueling club part, which is pages 188 to 197. Or if you're listening to the audiobook, it should be about 10 minutes into chapter 11. Do you want to give a summary?
Yes. Gilderoy Lockhart starts a dueling club at Hogwarts. The trio attends the first meeting where Harry duels Draco Malfoy. After Draco conjures a snake, Harry learns he can speak a different language.
All right. Before we get into the episode, let's go to our listener question of the week.
Do you think it was an intentional choice by J.K. Rowling writing similar characters or characteristics between James and Lily and Harry and Ginny?
So, I mean, I kind of broke it down with the individuals. I don't know so much about the couple. I feel like we don't have that much information about James and Lily as a couple, or at least from my memory of the books. But I think we kind of get some about like the individuals. So Harry and James are supposed to be basically twins, like looking almost identical except for the eyes. And then there's some personality things that are supposed to be similar. So, but then I think it's Dumbledore who says that Harry's actually in personality more like Lily. And obviously they have the eye comparison as far as like his physical look. I think Ginny and Lily there's a lot of similarities drawn out. Like they both have red hair. They're both supposed to be skilled witches. They both have kind of like this more outspoken, vivacious personality. And they're both favorites of Horace Slughorn, despite not being from like quote unquote respectable families. And they're both fond of cats, or at least we know that Ginny's fond of cats, and we know that the Potters had a cat as a pet before they passed away. And then I also looked into Ginny and James, and I think there's some comparisons there too. I mean, obviously like the Quidditch and Harry plays Quidditch, but from the things that I could find, it's not really clear if James played Seeker or Chaser, or maybe he played both, and Ginny plays both. So that might be like a similarity between that. I read on Reddit some people saying that Ginny and James were actually very similar.
I saw this too. I was thinking about Harry and James, and people were pointing out that James and Ginny actually have some similarities and maybe are a little more rough around the edges or going to say things and be a little more outspoken. And I don't feel like I see that as much in Lily.
Yeah, and I think Harry, Ginny, and James all seem to have a little bit more of a like rebellious streak to them, like breaking the rules type of thing. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's definitely like little points that give some similarities. And I think that I would guess that J.K. Rowling is kind of trying to intentionally do that. Because I think there's comparisons of Ron and Hermione to Arthur and Molly. So I think that might be kind of one of those things like she's making some like little hints that that couple is similar to their like predecessor couple, if you will.
Yeah. I think there's definitely parallels or similarities between Harry and his parents. And I think that's intentionally written into the book, especially since he doesn't know his parents. It's, implied that he has some inherent personality traits that are just part of who he is because of who his parents are. And I think Harry, it's fun to see him learn about his parents and learn about the good and bad things about them. Even, he kind of learns some things about James that he doesn't like. And I think he has that same experience that everyone has of like, oh no, I'm turning into my parents. I'm turning into my dad. So I think that's a fun storyline. With Ginny, I see some very general similarities, but I don't really see specifically that Ginny and Harry as a couple are that similar to James and Lily as a couple. Like you said, we just don't know enough about James and Lily and their relationship before Harry.
All right, so let's get into the episode.
So I'll give a little context before we get into the actual scene. Right before this, Harry had his arm broken at the Quidditch match and Lockhart repaired it. So he doesn't trust Lockhart anymore because Lockhart didn't repair his arm. He totally messed it up. And the trio at this point thinks that Malfoy is the heir to Slytherin. Ron has a whole monologue and says, it's obvious, it's Draco. His dad, Lucius Malfoy, opened the chamber back in the day, and Draco's doing it again. So this trio, they always are suspecting Malfoy, but they're really on high alert with Malfoy right now. Also, it seems like there's kind of a craze going on at the school where everyone is super concerned because Colin Creevey was just petrified. And so it says the students, there's a roaring trade in talismans, amulets, and other protective devices sweeping the school. Neville even bought a large, evil-smelling green onion to protect him. So it makes sense that they all sign up for this dueling club because it's just like a game of telephone throughout the school where everyone is just escalating and like they're all in fear of whatever is happening with the chamber now that a student has been petrified.
Yeah. Which seems weird though, because like if you're worried about like what are you going to duel a monster? Like what's how does this fix your problem exactly? Not sure. I guess you're thinking you're going to duel the heir of Slytherin.
I know it is a kind of weird solution to the current problem, but it's something.
Yeah. I think the students are grasping for something right now. And also what makes sense why most people attend this is it doesn't say that Lockhart is the one that starts it. They see a posting and it just says that there's a dueling club and that's like posted out in the entrance hall and then everyone signs up to join. So and then they show up and see who's teaching.
Exactly. Harry even starts to say, they ask, who's teaching it? And Harry goes, as long as it's not. And then Lockhart steps in and Harry just groans because he does not trust Lockhart anymore. And it's described that all the dining tables have vanished and there's just a long gold stage against one of the walls with 1,000 candles floating around. In the book, the set is kind of simple. I love the movie set for this scene.
Yeah. What do you like about the movie?
In the movie set, it's so memorable. It's that long royal blue stage with the crescents of the moon phases down it. And I just thought that was a really cool look. It looks kind of magical and fun. It's still in the Great Hall, I think, but I liked the way they did the stage.
Yeah, I went back and rewatched the movie and saw that, and I was thinking to myself that the movie was so extra, like adding this whole stage and everything. But then I had forgotten that in the book there was a stage.
Yeah.
But the book, I mean, what we can get into it, but the book has like more stuff, like more actual dueling than the movie. But the scene's just a little bit longer and like tweaked a little bit. It's mostly the same.
Yeah, it's pretty similar between the book and the movie. So Gilderoy Lockhart is there leading the dueling club, and Snape is his assistant.
Yeah. And apparently Dumbledore greenlighted this, which I guess Dumbledore just lets Lockhart do whatever he wants, but okay.
Dumbledore seems to let all the teachers do whatever they want.
Yeah, there's it's pretty lax at Hogwarts.
Lockhart is pompous as ever. I love his, can everyone see me? Can everyone hear me?
Oh my gosh. He's so annoying. So yeah, so he starts with him and Snape doing a demonstration, as he says, which this whole class, or I guess it's not a class, this whole club is, I feel like, so mismanaged and so they're not really teaching anything. They're just like, here, let's just kind of like bungle through this. Students try to glean something from this.
Yeah, there's no lesson plan.
So Lockhart decides to start with a demonstration with him and Snape. And this is where basically they face off and they kind of explain the rules of dueling, which we'll get into later. And Snape does Expelliarmus against Lockhart, which is the disarming charm, and Lockhart's knocked off his feet. And this is where Harry learns his signature spell.
Expelliarmus, this is the first use of it in the books.
Yeah,
Oh, wow, that's iconic.
exactly. Which leads me into my little side segment, Expelliarmus, colon, Harry's signature spell. Would you like to hear more about it?
Yes, Harry does love this spell. Tell me more.
Harry loves the spell. Other people use the spell, but Harry learns the spell here from Snape of all people, which is funny because he also learns a bunch of stuff from Snape in the Half-Blood Prince too. So Snape's actually a really good teacher and a skilled wizard, and Harry kind of like begrudgingly gets a lot of good information from him.
True.
So, throughout the books, Harry uses the Expelliarmus spell 10 times that we see. And of those 10 times, 6 of those, it has beneficial results.
Oh, I love stats.
Yeah.
60% efficiency, effectiveness
so,
rate.
yeah, so it's 60% effective, which is probably why Harry keeps using it. 3 times, it has kind of neutral consequences, I'll say, like no benefit, no harm, or the harm and benefit kind of balance out. And
Okay.
then, so that's 30%. And then 1 time, it has negative results, like very harmful results, so 10%. So now I'm going to go through all the times kind of chronologically, and I'll point out the results, consequences. So after he sees it at the dueling club, he uses it pretty quickly. There's a later scene where it's not included in the movies, but basically Harry gets a singing Valentine in front of some students and he drops the Tom Riddle's diary and Malfoy picks it up, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So then he uses Expelliarmus to get the diary from Malfoy. So that's his first time ever using it after he saw the dueling club, and that's a positive result, right?
Wow.
So pretty simple, but still good. Next, he uses it against Lockhart when Lockhart tries to erase his and Ron's memories in the classroom after he basically reveals that he, like, his whole con system.
So Lockhart gets bested by this twice.
Then After that, Harry uses the spell against Snape, his teacher of the spell, in the Shrieking Shack. So when Snape comes upon like Remus and Sirius and them having this conversation and all that and tries to go after Sirius, Harry and the other students use that against Snape.
Great scene.
So again, beneficial. I counted that as a beneficial result. You disarmed him when he was trying to get Sirius like taken by the Dementors, so pretty good. All right, now here's a couple words I called neutral. So he uses it against Peter Pettigrew after they get out of the Shrieking Shack when he tries to transform. And the spell worked, but he was just too slow and Peter transformed. So that's where it's like you didn't really do any, like it didn't really add to the harm, but you just weren't fast enough.
Good effort.
Yeah. Then he uses it in the fourth book when he's in the maze. There's a giant spider that picks him up and is about to like bite him or whatever with the pincers. And he uses it to make the spider drop him, and which is a good result, but he falls 12 feet and causes further damage to his already damaged leg. So that's why I kind of put that as neutral.
All right. And I was thinking Expelliarmus makes someone lose their wand, but it's whatever's in your hands is expelled from your arms. Is that Expelliarmus?
Yeah, it's disarming you. So if a way to disarm a spider would be like he's holding on to you, he's dropped you, or like you're holding on a book, it can like take the book out of your hand, or you're holding a wand, or it seems like sometimes it like knocks people back. I don't know if that's because like if you're really good at the spell or if it's a direct hit or something.
Yeah, I get the impression it's kind of a combo where it does have a force of impact on the person and it's also disarming you.
Yeah. So after he uses it on the spider, he uses it in, obviously, his two most iconic uses of it are his two duels with Voldemort. He uses it, which the first one is in book 4 when it's him and Voldemort in front of that ring of Death Eaters. And then he uses it again at the very end of the books, which results in Voldemort's death. So those are two very good beneficial results use of the spell. And then the one really harmful use is when so now we're in the 7th book, they're running from the Death Eaters. They're all on their brooms or thestrals and whatever, all the things, trying to escape the Death Eaters when Harry's being moved. And he sees Stan Shunpike is among the Death Eaters, and he uses Expelliarmus on him instead of using some sort of attacking spell. And that alerts the Death Eaters that it is the real Harry, and they go and get Voldemort. So he basically almost gets killed by using Expelliarmus in this sense. So very bad use of the spell.
Very bad use. And I love that he uses Expelliarmus and they're like, it has to be him.
Yeah, and then he uses it. That's the first spell he uses to test his broken wand in the 7th book, which it doesn't really work. So like just neutral benefits or like neutral results there. And then finally is his use against Voldemort. I kind of said that one first, but the last use I'll mention is he uses it to disarm Goyle in the Room of Requirement when he's trying to kill them. So very good use of the spell there.
So no wonder it seems like he uses this a lot. He uses it in a lot of the most memorable scenes or most intense scenes in the books.
Yeah, it's his go-to. Like in all his basically all his duels, he uses this. I think people think that his Patronus is his signature spell, and that one does come up a lot. But I think, like, if you read the books, he definitely uses Expelliarmus more.
Sure.
So that concludes my little segment, Expelliarmus, Harry's signature spell.
Snape uses Expelliarmus on Lockhart in their one-on-one duel to demonstrate to the students. And of course, Snape knocks Lockhart over and just totally wins this duel outright within like 2 seconds. And Lockhart brushes that off and he's like, oh, I let him have it, good try, Snape, but I'm about to show you. Snape has his own personal grudges against Lockhart because Lockhart has the job he wants. And so Snape is on it. He is ready to attack. Like, this is his moment. This is the coworker that he hates. And he's like, I get a chance to fight this guy and not get in trouble for it. I'm going to be ready to go at the jump once we say 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, he's the only one that's thinking like a teacher. This is a good, relatively simple spell to show students. He does it verbally. We know he's skilled at nonverbal spells. Like he could do this nonverbally, but like this is a demonstration, so he's going to say it out loud. So like I feel like Snape is the only one like thinking like an educator. Like Lockhart, I'm not really sure like what help he's providing here in this demonstration, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. And to Snape's credit, this is a spell that the students could use in dangerous situations without seriously harming another student. Or it's not like it's going to kill or seriously maim another student. So
Yeah,
it's safe enough to teach them.
in this dueling club, they're instructed to disarm only. This is a disarming spell. Like this is what they need to know. And also later, Zachariah Smith, when they're teaching this to the Dumbledore's army, he says, "Oh, like that's not really a useful spell." Like kind of brushes it off like it's too basic to use in defense against the dark arts, which kind of is an indicator that this would be a simple enough spell for even the lower grade level students to kind of grasp, right?
Yeah. When Snape knocks Lockhart over, Hermione is like, "Oh no, do you think he's okay?" And Ron and Harry both say, "Who cares?"
Yeah, they're so over it with him. I'm surprised Hermione still is like holding out hope.
I love that Ron also earlier, when he sees that it's Lockhart and Snape leading this, Ron goes, "Wouldn't it be great if they just finished each other off?"
Yeah. Is that your favorite quote from the scene?
That might be my favorite quote. Yeah.
And well, yeah, so they do that demonstration and then obviously doesn't super look great for Lockhart. And I think he sees Snape sneering at him. So he decides that they're going to pair off the students and the students in their pairs are going to kind of like practice. Which again, like they've taught them nothing other than the Expelliarmus spell. So what are these students supposed to be doing? But anyway, they pair off and I this is like maybe my favorite moment from the scene is Snape gets to them first and he says like Ron and Harry are standing next to each other and he says, "Oh, time to split up the dream team." And has Ron paired with Seamus. And then Harry immediately moves as close as he can to Hermione. Like, okay, Snape's not going to pair you with Hermione. He's like, nice try. And then puts him with Draco.
Yeah. And Snape literally calls Ron and Harry the dream team, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But yeah, so the pairs that we know of from this are Neville Longbottom is paired with Justin Finch Fletchley. Ron Weasley is paired with Seamus Finnegan. Harry Potter is paired with Draco Malfoy, and then Hermione Granger with Millicent Bulstrode. And then, all the other students, but we don't really know, like, we don't have a full list of everyone there and their pairs.
Yeah, in the movies we skip over this bit, but there's this scene where all the students they basically say 1, 2, 3, go, and all the students start fighting each other in pairs.
Yeah, this is the Hogwarts Fight Club. So Malfoy, gotta love this kid. He he decides to cast his spell on 2. So he's gonna get the best of Harry by cheating. Classic Malfoy move.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry, I don't know what the spell is exactly, but Harry describes it as like being bonked on the head, basically.
He says it feels like getting hit by a saucepan.
Okay.
That's more than bonked on the head.
Okay. Maybe I'm milding this down a little bit. And then Harry responds back by casting a tickling spell on Malfoy.
And here I'm like, really, Harry? Your defense is to make Malfoy laugh? Like, this is tickling Malfoy's stomach so that he's like rolling on the ground laughing? Like, really? That's the best you've got, Harry?
This is the great competitor that Voldemort has. If he could see this, he'd be like, "Are you serious right now?"
And at this point, Harry thinks Malfoy is the heir to Slytherin and is like releasing a monster and petrifying students. And Harry's like, "Well, I'll just do the tickling charm. That one's easy."
Yeah. So.
And Harry's response, or Malfoy's response, is just as good.
Yeah, so he's doubled over laughing and then Harry's like stops basically because he's like, I'm not gonna like keep casting spells on someone who's like incapacitated, kind of. And but Malfoy manages to cast a tap dance type spell. Like basically Harry's like feet are like moving around and he can't control them.
Yeah, this is Tarantalegra, and so Malfoy's laughing, Harry's dancing. Like, I don't know why these two aren't friends.
Yeah, this is real second year level magic. Just a reminder, we're only on Chamber of Secrets.
So Lockhart's screaming, "Stop, stop, everyone," because the whole room has just erupted in madness. And we see that Millicent Bulstrode, a Slytherin, and Hermione have dropped their wands, and Millicent has Hermione in a headlock, and they've just resulted to like good old fashioned wrestling,
Yeah,
physical
which
combat.
it seems more like Millicent has resorted to that, and Hermione has been like pulled into a headlock. But also here again, maybe Snape is the hero of this scene because he is the one that casts a haze of smoke, which is basically like he does finite incantatem to stop all these spells and get like this classroom in order.
Yeah, so through this haze of greenish smoke, you see this scene of all the students just distraught from all the spells that have been cast. It's very
Yeah, and then
frantic.
yes, and then Lockhart realizes again that this is not going well. So he goes, okay, let's go back to a demonstration, but we'll just use like an example pair. And he tries to get Neville and Justin Finch Fletchley, their pair, which makes sense. Like they're already paired off. So he's just trying to grab a pair to go up on the stage in front of the group. But
And it makes
Snape,
sense because J.K. Rowling is multiple times reminding us Justin Finch Fletchley is in this scene. You got to know this character because he's about to be important.
yeah, and he comes up. The trio recently met him in a herbology class, so he's kind of like he's been around, like, and he's been around since the beginning too. Like we're just kind of getting like more of him in Chamber of Secrets. So anyway, they're trying to grab that pair, but Snape is always like anti Neville, so he's like, oh no, Neville, he's gonna like his wand's gonna go crazy or he's gonna like mess something up. So let's do another pair. Let's get Malfoy and Harry. Whereas in the movie, it was supposed to be Ron and Harry, and then Snape goes after Ron and says the same thing, and then randomly grabs Malfoy. Like I think it makes more sense. Like they were already paired off, and then you just kind of like grab to that pair.
Exactly. Snape is described as gliding over like a large and malevolent bat to scoop up Harry and force him on stage to do this demonstration in front of most of the school.
Yes. Also, I do think it's so funny in the movie version. He when in the movie version, like Harry's chosen, so Harry gets up on stage, and then um Lockhart's trying to put Ron, and then Snape goes, "How about someone from my house?" Like casually, like he has no idea. He's just gonna kind of randomly, like whatever. Like I'm just, I'm here, playful girl, and then all of a sudden he like Alan Rickman like does this hard pivot and points directly at Malfoy. Like he knew where he was behind him somehow. He like turns
Yeah,
around,
exactly.
points exactly to where Malfoy is, and then like does this thumb back behind him and then like walks off. Like it's so funny to me because he's like so casually talking and then he just whips around like and immediately looks at Malfoy like, oh, I've like when I was looking in the other direction, I made sure I knew where Malfoy was behind me first so I could do that quick whip around.
Yes, Snape is so sassy. He's getting all of his like personal vengeance out and through this dueling club, like stunning Lockhart, torturing Harry, bullying Neville, letting Malfoy run wild, and the other
Yes.
Slytherins.
He's so sassy. But yeah, so Malfoy and Harry are up to do a demonstration, and Snape is actually like teaching. So he's telling Malfoy, giving him some instructions, kind of like whispering in his ear on the one side. And so then Harry, looks at Lockhart like, "Hey, do you want to like give me any tips here? Can you like teach me that blocking spell you were talking about?" Which I don't even know why Harry even tries, but like, gotta try something.
And so Lockhart, I don't know if he's genuinely trying to teach Harry something, but he just picks up his wand. He does like a complicated wiggling motion, and accidentally drops his wand.
Yeah, that's all the help that he can provide. And then he's just like, whoops, all right, good luck. Like,
Yes, the dialogue. Lockhart says, "Whoops." my He
go
says
ahead.
my wand is a little overexcited. Do you want to say it?
We're gonna keep all of this in.
Whoops, my wand is a little overexcited.
Such a weird line. Like, so okay. Okay, Lockhart.
And then Harry again is like, what should I do? And Lockhart goes, just do what I just did. And Harry goes, what? Drop my wand?
This is the Harry sass. The movies really, really gypped us because Harry has like so many good like comebacks and little like one liner and like Harry, like we can call it Harry sass. There's so much Harry sass in the books that we don't get in the movies. Like I love this for him.
The dialogue here is so funny. And even this line that Harry has of what, drop my wand, you can picture him saying that with a sassy tone of like he knows exactly what he's saying. Or I can picture he's just very innocently, like, he's up there, he's in front of all these students, he's just embarrassed and scared. He's like, what, drop my wand? Like, just innocently saying that.
So, which this whole like interaction is seen by Malfoy. And so that's like this kind of, again, like these are like subtle differences between the movie and the book, but I think like the book is providing more context that makes sense. Like, so Malfoy sees this interaction of Harry desperately trying to get help from from Lockhart. So then that's what prompts his line, "Scared," like goading Harry. Which I like. I actually like in the movies. He goes, "Scared, Potter," and then he goes, "You wish." Which they added that little Potter because Tom Felton's got to say his hard P Potters like 20 times in the movie in each movie.
Potter?
But yeah, great dialogue in this whole scene. But yeah, scared, you wish.
So then they face off, and Malfoy does the Serpent Sortia spell, and a snake comes out of his wand. In the movies, it's a cobra. In the book, it's described as a long black snake.
Yeah, I'm not sure what type of snake that. I mean, our snake people, if you're a snake wrangler, write in, tell us. Long black snake, I think that could be like maybe multiple different kinds. I feel like the snake in the movies is like it's like tannish, multicolored, and it looks relatively small. I'm picturing that the snake that's coming out of Draco's wand is a lot larger in the books.
Yeah, in the movie, it's like a life-size cobra, so it's not too big. It's tan, and it has like the sides of its head flare out in that oval kind of shape of a signature cobra. But in the book, it's a little ambiguous, but I would imagine that it's a pretty large snake, or maybe larger than or black racer.
I mean, I'm imagining that this snake is a non-venomous snake. I'm not even sure. Like, I'm kind of confused by this. Like, Malfoy's only a second year, and Transfiguration is supposed to be incredibly difficult. So this seems like a really advanced spell for him to be doing.
This does seem like some advanced magic, but I don't feel like it's implied that Malfoy isn't a good wizard in the books.
No, yeah. I think this whole scene is showing how good of a wizard Malfoy is. I'm just thinking like for his he's 12 years old and he's like doing transfiguration. We see for like a somewhat similar, like Cedric transforms a rock into a dog in the fourth book, and he's 17. So it just seems like to create a whole snake out of thin air seems like something he'd be doing in like 6th, 7th year, not like 2nd year.
Pre-Hogwarts, Malfoy definitely got some homeschooling from Narcissa and Lucius. He was learning this. Like, okay, before you go to school, you got to know how to conjure a snake in case you got to fight another student.
Yeah, but I feel like it implies that like because Snape was talking to him before he cast the spell. I think it implies that Snape is the one telling him to do that spell, no?
Yeah, actually, that probably is what's happening.
If he's just now, like, or maybe he's like, oh yeah, I know you know how to do this spell, like, use that one, something like that. But we know that, like, this is in front of all the students and this is like a, controlled environment. So I'm imagining that the snake is basically not actually going to hurt anyone. Like, I don't think the snake is actually a threat. I think the students just get scared because people are scared of snakes.
Yeah, exactly. And Snape, Professor Snape, is like, oh, don't worry, don't move, Potter. I'll take care of it. He says this lazily. Like, he's not even moving to handle it. He's just like, oh, it's okay, Potter. I'll be there in a minute to help you.
Hmm. And he, like, so he's kind of like lazily about to do that. And then Lockhart, being Lockhart, is like, oh, I gotta do it. I'll, like, don't worry, let me do it. And then all he does is launch the snake in the air and it comes back down. And then it's obviously very angry.
Yeah, Lockhart makes everything worse. He makes the snake more angry, and it starts to slither towards JFF, Justin Finch Fletchley, who in my opinion is the villain of the scene.
Yeah. Justin seems a little bit pompous also. He was talking about how he was supposed to go to Eton in like another scene. Like, I
Like
don't
a
know. He
private
seems,
school.
yeah, he seems a little full of himself. But yeah, so the snake just basically goes to the nearest person, which happens to be him. In the movies, I feel like they kind of like have this like where Harry's having this long ass conversation with the snake. But in the books, basically Harry like reacts dumb, like stupidly, and just yells at the snake, leave him alone, like just thinking that he's just saying that in English, but he says it in parcel tongue.
Yeah, this is just a gut instinct reaction from Harry. I do think, Harry's very brave and he's going to defend other people. So he just jumps in and says, Snake, leave him alone. And the snake listens and stops attacking. The snake like slumps down.
Yeah, like it becomes docile, like looks over it. It stops pursuing Justin and looks over at Harry, which you would think that like it would be pretty clear that Harry wasn't egging the snake on at that point. But Justin doesn't like it. So Harry smiles at Justin, and then Justin's like, WTF, bro, and then storms out of the room, essentially.
Yes. The snake doesn't even say anything back to Harry. Harry just understands that like it's not going to do anything anymore. Like he has some kind of mind connection with the snake. But Justin is such a dick about it.
So after that, Justin storms out, and then basically Snape gets rid of the snake and just kind of stares at Harry. Like everyone's just quiet, staring at him, shocked, and kind of like, or I guess not quiet. They're kind of like muttering, and it's like that awkward, like a little too silent. And Ron and Hermione kind of like take Harry out of the hall to go talk to him.
Yeah, Ron and Hermione swoop in, grab Harry, pull him out of the situation like great friends. Harry doesn't know what's going on. He can tell people are talking about him. So they go back to the Gryffindor common room to convene and discuss what just happened.
Yeah, and they point out that the Gryffindor common room is empty, which I think also furthers the point that like basically everyone is down there at this dueling club. Like there's no one like hanging out in the common room. And in the common room, that's where Ron explains to Harry that he's a parcel mouth, and Harry thinks that speaking to snakes is just a normal thing because he talked to a boa constrictor in the first book, and he thinks that like normal wizards, like that's just a wizard thing. And then Ron just kind of breaks down, and Hermione too, that like it's not normal. It's a really rare skill, and when you are like speaking parcel tongue, like people can't understand it. It's like speaking another language.
Yeah. Harry says, I bet loads of people here can do it. Talk to snakes. And Harry's just so humble. Like he really is such a lovable character because he doesn't think that he's special, in a very genuine way. He's like, oh yeah, I just like have conversations with snakes sometimes. Like no big deal. Like I'm sure other people have that.
Yeah. It's funny that this like never came up. I feel like students would, I can imagine first year students talking to each other about like, oh, what magic did you accidentally do before you knew you were a witch or wizard, for like at least for the Muggle-born ones. But I guess maybe they're not as common.
Yeah. This is super significant to the trio right now because they know that Salazar Slytherin was famously a parcel mouth. And so that unlocks this fear of like, wait, is Harry the heir of Slytherin? Like Harry doesn't know his genealogy. He doesn't know anything about his dad's family. So is James a descendant of Salazar Slytherin who lived 1,000 years ago? Is Harry the great, 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 great grandson?
Yeah, there's not really a way to prove that he's not. And then Harry kind of goes to bed that night thinking about it and thinking about, oh, well, the Sorting Hat tried to put me in Slytherin, so maybe that's like, the Potters were descended from him. Like he starts to kind of think that, like, consider the fact that he could be the heir of Slytherin. I don't think
Yeah.
he's I don't think he's thinking that he's like doing the attacks, though. I think he's just thinking, oh, the school's going to think that I'm doing the attacks because I could be the heir of Slytherin.
Yeah, I think he feels confident that he knows he didn't do anything to Colin Creevey or Mrs. Norris, who are now petrified. But the whole school is suspicious of him, and especially after this weird interaction with Justin Finch Fletchley. It so happens that later in this chapter, Justin Finch Fletchley is the next person who's petrified. So it makes Harry look extra bad that it looked like to some people that he was egging the snake on and marking Justin as the next victim. And then all of a sudden, Justin's petrified. The moment that Harry is trying to find him to apologize for whatever happened here at the dueling club.
Yeah, is Voldemort intentionally trying to pin this on Harry?
I don't know. I think it's just coincidence, but that might be a theory to explore.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've always thought that it was just coincidence, but thinking about it more, Voldemort tells, or Tom Riddle tells Harry that Ginny like pours her heart onto the diary and tells him everything, tells him all about Harry. Like, this is a big event, Harry having this whole like parcel tongue thing. Like, Ginny would have written about this in the diary. So that could be, and would have written about like how Colin Creevey's following Harry around. But I guess no one knows about Filch and Harry having a run in, so like the cat would have been just random for sure.
It is implied that other students know. Later, there's a conversation between some Hufflepuffs, Ernie Macmillan, I think, and he's laying out the theory of like, oh, Harry Potter had some kind of run in with Filch, and then the cat got petrified. Harry Potter was annoyed by Colin Creevey following him around, and then they don't know exactly what happened with Filch, but they think like, okay, a lot of students don't like Filch or have some run-ins with him, so something happened there, and that's why
Yeah,
Mrs. Norris was attacked.
the school knows after the attack, but I'm talking about before. Harry finds out, Filch tries to give Harry detention. Harry finds out that he's a squib, which he doesn't even know what a squib is. And then he tells Ron and Hermione. And then like the next day they find the cat. And then in front of the whole school, Filch goes, Harry knows I'm a squib. So like the whole school knows at that point. I'm just talking about beforehand, like no one knows.
Good point.
But yeah, but that pretty much wraps up the scene. But to kind of go through some of the aspects of the scene, so the people that we know were attendees, obviously Lockhart and Snape are the teachers. Most of the school attends. The Gryffindor students that we know are there are obviously Harry, Ron, and Hermione, Neville, Seamus, and Dean, and Lavender Brown. And from Hufflepuff, Justin Finch Fletchley and Ernie Macmillan. And from Slytherin, Draco and Millicent. Those are the ones that are actually named. I mean, I assume there's a lot more, and there must be a lot of Ravenclaws. But that's the people that like I could find from the chapter that actually like were specifically called out. Do you want to talk about this? Go through the spells that were used?
The spells we see used in the scene are Expelliarmus, the disarming charm, Ricta Sempra, the tickling charm, in case you ever want to use that on a friend, Talentilegra, which makes your legs do a quick step. That's like the tap dancing spell that Malfoy uses. Finite Incantatem, which stops the effects of current spells, and Serpensortia, which conjures a snake.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Expelliarmus obviously comes up again. I feel like Finite Incantatem comes up later as well in other books. But the rest of them, I have no memory off the top of my head that they ever use them again.
Yeah, me either.
And Harry specifically later, when he's about to duel Voldemort in book 4, when they're in the graveyard, he in his inner monologue, he notes that the only thing he learned from this dueling club was Expelliarmus. So for dueling etiquette, from what we get from this club, I don't know if this is actually right, but the wizards are supposed to face each other and bow and then raise their wands like swords in front of them, and then on the count of 3 they cast spells.
When you hear dueling, I think of like Hamilton dueling, where you take 10 steps away from each other, turn around, and shoot. And this dueling is kind of more like karate or fencing, where you just bow, you're facing each other, and you start fighting.
Yeah, I mean they show them with some distance between each other, like they're not like right next to each other, but yeah, and then when Harry does duel Voldemort, Voldemort kind of gives him a lesson there again, and they do bow. So that does seem to be standard practice, but there was no countdown. And I don't know if that's just because Voldemort like wasn't going to give a countdown or if the countdown was more for like the purposes of a lesson.
Yeah, I feel like it's more for the purposes of the lesson. And in real life, if you're trying to kill somebody, you're not going to say 1, 2, 3. Or even if you
Yeah.
did, like the person would start on 1 or start on 2, like the good old Malfoy trick.
Yeah, there's real life combat and then there's dueling, right? Like we know that Flitwick is a dueling champion. It seems like there's competitions and things. Like people do this almost like a sport. So I'm not sure like for the sake of like doing it as a sport sort of thing you would count. But obviously if you're just like fighting another wizard, you're not like going to necessarily abide by the formalities.
That reminded me of something. Flitwick is a dueling champion. The students know this. Hermione says this in a scene. And so clearly Lockhart didn't want Flitwick there to show him up, even though that would have been what's best for the students, is to have a dueling champion coaching them. And it proves that Lockhart chose Snape because he thought he could outdo Snape, or he thought Snape would be an easy person to beat, which clearly he wasn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's definitely like something went on before this because the fact that Flitwick was left out. Also, Flitwick doesn't. I don't think Flitwick believes in teaching kids dueling because he doesn't want people to like use it for bullying and everything. But
Which Snape is so supportive of bullying.
Snape is very pro bullying. But I'm also unclear. Did Dumbledore just maybe Gilderoy went to Dumbledore and asked for permission, and then Dumbledore might have assigned Snape because it seems like Dumbledore assigned Snape for a lot of side jobs. So I'm not even sure if like Gilderoy picked him or
That's a good
not.
point. Maybe Dumbledore voluntold Snape to do this. As I was reading this and Gilderoy's little comments to Snape that are like offensive, or his little jibs at Snape, you do think Snape's just having a rough day at work. And this is one of those days where this evening, Snape is like laying in bed, scrolling Indeed, like looking at job postings on his phone, like just questioning his life choices and his career. He's like,
He's like, Voldemort, please come back. I need another job.
yeah, exactly. He's like forced to hang out with this dummy who has his job, this incompetent teacher, these students he hates who remind him of his terrible childhood bully.
Yeah. I did think about this, revisiting the scene. It's a Harry and Draco duel rematch because they were supposed to duel in book 1. They didn't include that in the movies, but in the books, Draco challenges Harry to a duel in the trophy room at midnight. And then, so Harry and Ron show up, and Ron's supposed to be his second and all that. And then basically Draco sets him up and tells Filch that he's going to be there. And then, they have to run away from Filch. And that's how they ended up finding the 3-headed dog. But so
Yes.
It's funny, like, this is a little like, this is their like rematch for that duel that was supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's a callback to book 1, but it's also foreshadowing to book 6 when Harry and Draco have their face off in the bathroom, and Harry has moved on from the tickling charm and he goes straight for Sectum Sempra.
Yeah, definitely a different scenario there. It's like, I don't know. It's like when you see an Instagram reel and they're playing like sad music, and it's like how times have changed, and it's like from them tickling and dancing to like Draco's like Voldemort's gonna kill me and he's crying in a bathroom, and Harry's like casting
spelled, so he's
slicing.
bleeding out on the floor.
Yeah, it's like it's a very different scenario.
Would you say that the dueling club is version 1 of Dumbledore's army?
No, I would not. What do you
Much
think?
better, much better teachers in Dumbledore's army. But this did kind of have like Dumbledore's army vibes to me, or it feels like it's a little bit of foreshadowing of maybe this planted the seed in Harry's head where he's like, you know what, I could do this better.
Yeah, maybe. Or really Hermione's head, since it was her idea. I guess I have just a very cynical view of this. Like, why are you teaching people to duel a basilisk? I mean, I know you don't know it's a basilisk, but like, you're not going to duel something that's going to petrify you. And it's, Lockhart, it's just a Lockhart trying to show that he's a great guy. And just the whole thing is like so mismanaged. So I think like Dumbledore's army was much better executed. And it was like a secret society versus this was just like everyone and your mother show up. So I just feel like they're different in my mind, but maybe it did plant the seed. Also, I did find on, you can get it on Amazon. Lego has a set specifically for the dueling club.
Does it look like the movie with the crescent moon or the phases of the moon and the
It,
stage thing?
it does have the phases of the moon. So it looks like it includes the stage with the crescent moons, a like tan snake, and then Draco with a wand casting a spell, and Harry with a wand casting a spell, and then Gilderoy smirking in the background and Snape looking serious in the background. And then there's like a fireplace with a wizard on it. I don't know if, I guess you can change the person's like profile on it. But the coolest part about this, I don't even know how to describe this. You like push a button and it launches one of the duelers off of the stage.
You can eject Lockhart from the stage. This is the coolest Lego set ever.
So let's get into some theories from fans. I saw one question that said, Harry speaks Parseltongue in this scene. Are there other people who could talk to other animals? Why are snakes special enough for some people to talk to?
So I love this. This is a fun conversation topic, but going back, it's not random that he talks to a snake here, that snakes are like a running theme, because this is foreshadowing of the snake. The basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets is foreshadowing of Nagini. And there's a lot of like symbolism around snakes. So snakes represent death and rebirth. And that's part of Harry's story or transformation. So Harry grows and transforms, but also he has to die because he is a Horcrux. Snakes also represent temptation. And I feel like that's kind of associated with Malfoy in a way, because Malfoy is always tempting Harry into a fight or bringing out the worst in Harry. Malfoy is always a distraction in class, things like that. And so the snake kind of represents Malfoy in that temptation theme too, in my interpretation. But for other animals that people could talk to, I think it would be cool if they could talk to like ravens or crows, eagles, like any kind of bird would be a cool theme if that was included in Harry Potter.
Yeah. I mean, if we're answering this question from the perspective of like putting ourselves in the world, not so much like reviewing the book, it doesn't really make a lot of sense why snakes are just the one random animal that some people can talk to, but no other animals. I mean, it seems that Dumbledore is able to communicate with Fawkes, the
the Phoenix.
Like, I mean, he's not speaking a different language. He's just speaking English and Fawkes is understanding.
But also that's not a normal animal. That's like a magical animal. So it's not exactly the same.
Yeah. And then also we see Harry speaking to Hedwig, the owl, and many other people speaking to owls, and owls understanding their assignments and where to come back to and things. I mean, I think we're assuming in this world that owls have a special capability that is magical. So I guess there's some level of like wizards communicating with animals, but not in a separate language. Like why do snakes have a specific language that people can only speak if they're born with it, kind of. So I don't know. It is a weird thing, like why snakes, but not, why not no other animals? Like if you're putting yourself into the story.
Well, I think magic, there has to be limitations on magic. They can't just solve every problem, talk to every animal. Like there has to be, otherwise there wouldn't be a story. So I know I'm getting back into like the plot and the storytelling, but there has to be some
But
kind of
like,
limits on the magic.
yeah, but why would it be snakes? Like it would make more sense that if it was some animal that is closer to humans. Like maybe if you say like monkeys are supposed to have evolved from the same creature that humans have, wouldn't it be monkey? You know what I'm saying? Like snakes is like throw a dart at a board and pick an animal. Like snakes are so random.
I don't really think they're random. I think people have been fascinated with snakes for a long time. They're like, from Greek mythology to the Bible, like I think there's just this fascination with snakes and them being like otherworldly or kind of magical.
Yeah, I'm with you from the literary, and I can talk about that, but I'm talking like putting myself in the world. Like, yeah, but are snakes more magical than cats? Right? Like cats are always like witches are associated with cats, black cats, or spiders. I feel like so, but but spiders speak English in this world apparently.
I feel like there's a couple animals that would make sense, like all the magical animals, like, or not magical really, but those animals that are a little more mystical, like cats, crows, ravens, snakes. Those are all in the same category to me. So,
Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you though from a literary standpoint, like if we're looking at the books, like I was looking into this and like found the same things like snakes even from prehistoric times have always been either worshipped, revered or feared. And there's just a lot of superstitions and myths around snakes. But I was finding that it all kind of correlates to actual facts about snakes. So like you were talking about the rebirth, that's kind of comes from the fact that they shed their skin, and that's kind of associated with like rebirth or immortality, right?
hmm
And
which is
then
what Voldemort is striving for.
yeah, which makes a lot of sense, like some of these why Voldemort is associated and why Voldemort would be a parcel tongue. And other evil wizards would be associated with this skill. Another thing about snakes is they don't have eyelids, so it looks like they're just always staring creepily, right? So I think that's another thing that's like very ominous to people. And the ability to kill with a single bite, some of them. So that makes people afraid of them, which I feel like the killing with a single bite, kind of like killing with a single look, basilisk, like that's kind of combining the no eyelids and the killing with venom thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I found apparently their propensity for sudden appearance and disappearance, like they just like slither in, slither out, and they can like hide and stuff, associates them with magic and ghosts and everything. So that I think everything comes from like real things about snakes, right? That kind of get like
Yeah.
perpetuated in myths and legends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think they're just a fascinating animal, and I love like the symbolism with them throughout Harry Potter. I think it ties in really well. Makes
Yeah, I
sense.
Yeah, I mean, like Satan in the Bible is depicted as a snake, right? And if we're like saying Voldemort is like the devil or whatever, then him being associated with snakes and always being with a snake. And I know that in the movies, his movements are very snake-like, right? Which kind of goes with the way he's described in the book too.
Chamber of Secrets is such a fun book. I feel like it's kind of underrated because it gets lost in the shuffle of all the other books, and they just keep getting better and better. But I do like Chamber of Secrets, and the quotes in this chapter were so funny.
I'm surprised you say that. I feel like Chamber of Secrets is most people's least favorite book.
That's why I'm saying it's underrated. It's always been one of my favorites.
I'm not a big fan of Chamber of Secrets. I feel like Chamber of Secrets has this creepy vibe about it. And, they talk about like the student dying and, students are being attacked, like kids are being attacked. And it's just kind of creepy. And like the whole mystery about Slytherin's monster and everything. Like, I just feel like this is, of all the books, this is one of the more like creepy, eerie books to me.
Yes. I don't really like horror movies, but I like a little bit of horror, like a Chamber of Secrets level.
Wild.
This is exactly the level of like horror that I enjoy. I have a very specific memory of reading this book when I was 10 or 11, and I was like sitting in a room by myself reading, and I had a can of Coca-Cola. And you know how like a carbonated drink, it will kind of bubble or it'll make noises sometimes, like a LaCroix or Coke or something. So I'm
Hmm.
reading this chapter. It's like totally silent. And it was a really scary scene where Harry's like in the halls by himself. And then my Coke like made a sound and I jumped and I was so terrified.
Yeah, like I think that him hearing the snake in the walls, it's so creepy. And the audiobook, it's I like to listen to the audiobook, and I'm one of those people that like listens to Harry Potter to go to sleep at night, just kind of like put on the audio. And I usually don't put on this book in particular because they go so hard in the personal tongue of the snake in the walls that it's so creepy. Like, and they're like doing the whole like whatever, and it's like just disturbing and makes you get like goosebumps. It's very creepy in the audiobook. So I don't really love that part.
I think it's fun.
But also, for the record, for this dueling club, so this is supposed to be a dueling club, so theoretically they're supposed to meet multiple times. I'm not really sure if they continued it after this. They don't talk about it in the books, and maybe after the whole Harry incident, it's supposed to be said that or it's supposed to be like implied that they stop, either Harry stops going or they stop doing it.
They never
Um,
address it again. They just leave it. It's the dueling club with one meeting.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the first book when they have the flying lessons. We only get the one meeting. But you take this as you will. Like, I don't know if people take what happens in the video games as canon or not canon, but in the Harry Potter video games, Dumbledore reinstates the dueling club in 1996 after Voldemort's return. And then, in further video games, the dueling clubs continues in the 2000s. So, maybe it was brought back, maybe it wasn't. I mean, we don't really see, for the sake of the story, like we don't see the trio going to a dueling club. So we're just going to say that it's not there anymore.
Thanks for joining us on this magical journey through the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening.
Next week, we will be discussing the new Wizarding World at Epic Universe theme park in Orlando, Florida. Until then, happy reading, happy listening, and may you never break your wand.